Hello, this is Stephen Howe, and yes, we're back with yet another Batman 66 episode review, and today we'll be reviewing the episode The Joker's Flying Saucer, sadly the last appearance of the Joker. So without any further ado, let's head straight into the review. We begin our episode with Commissioner Gordon getting random calls about the supposed sighting of aliens all over Gotham City. As a result of that, we then cut back to the Gotham City Library, where Barbara is talking to Professor Greenleaf and discussing about the random rumors of alien sightings and they're possibly coming here. And almost just on cue, a person resembling a Martian, or at least what they think is a Martian anyway, comes in and causes problems in the library. And this caused Barbara to scream. We then cut back to Gordon and Chief O'Hara at Police HQ, where they essentially are questioning all the sightings and all that. Realizing how this could possibly get out of control, they decide to call on Batman and Robin to help. The opening credits, and Batman and Robin quickly make their way to the Gotham City Police headquarters. Whilst at headquarters, they are not interrogating, but also taking a interview from a woman who has claimed to see these a Martian. During the whole interview, Batman and Robin look stumped as they have seen her before but can't place it. Just as she's left, Batman thinks she's telling the truth, but he is definitely convinced that they've seen this woman before. Just as that happens, Barbara comes in saying how she's encountered this Martian and is essentially scared for her life. It also should be noted that we then cut to the Joker's new hideout, and it turns out the Joker has been responsible for the rash of these craziness that has been going on. And it turns out they're not aliens at all, but he's creating rumors and panic to help set up his big caper. And his big caper is to essentially to make a flying saucer. And he sends his henchmen to go and get the beryllium, this metal found at the Wayne Foundation, to help build this saucer. Also, his henchman comes in. His lead henchman, who is this alien, turns out is definitely working for him, who thinks he's an alien. And he reveals that he's putting a device in the Batmobile that will cause it to explode at a certain time. And this makes Joker very happy. We then see Batman and Robin back in the Batcave, still deciphering all the craziness that is going on. But they managed to figure out, courtesy of the Batcomputer, that the Joker was indeed responsible for the whole thing. And they managed to come to the conclusion of this when he also realized that this woman is the sister of Professor Greenleaf, and he was once sent to prison for extorting greengrocers. And of course, he sends Alfred to go to the Wayne Foundation, thinking that Joker might strike there. Whilst at the same time, Barbara gets into Batgirl and heads there also. Batman and Robin plan to go down to the Wayne Foundation, but the explosion of the Batmobile goes off just as predicted and essentially causes an explosion in the Batcave. We then go back to the Joker's hideout, where they've built the flying saucer, and Joker has kidnapped Alfred, thinking he's a mad professor. I want to pause here. But Joker's seen Alfred before. Surely he would recognize him. But then again, that was the same with Penguin with Alfred in the beginning of the season. So I guess they're on an off day. He's also, by chance, captured Batgirl and tied her to a rocket and plans to fly her into orbit. We then cut back to Batman and Robin in the Batcave. And it turns out they survived the explosion courtesy of bat skivvies they've been wearing, which prevented them from being, killed. Just as that, they realize they've been knocked out for hours and choose the bat phone to try and get contact with Commissioner Gordon from the outside world. Just as this is happening, Batgirl is just about to be launched into orbit, but courtesy of one of her many gadgets on her utility belt prevents her from being launched. As a result, the Joker decides to take her up in the spaceship, and they go around causing so much havoc and chaos. Batman and Robin manage to get to the heliport, where they take their Batcopter and fly in the air and try to get in contact with Alfred. Alfred, whilst trying not to have everyone figure out that he's secretly talking through a microphone, tells Batman and Robin that he's placed a device within the flying saucer that could essentially bring it back down to Earth, essentially. Thanks to Batman and Robin, they managed to do so, and Alfred always manages to reveal the Joker's hideout. They manage to take control of the flying saucer and bring it back to the Joker's hideout. Joker is, of course, furious about this, what's happening, and essentially saying he wanted to rule the world from Mars. But before anything could happen, Batman and Robin pop in and we have another bat fight. I really kind of like this one, especially this funny scene where they're all in the flying saucer and they all rush into the flying saucer, and one by one each goon is, thrown out along with Joker. The police, of course, come and round up the Joker and his whole crew. And it's fitting that the Joker is the last of the regular villains to be taken away. After all, he is considered Batman's arch nemesis in most forms of media. Though he was treated like a regular rogue on the show, it makes a lot of sense that he be the last one. Of course, Batgirl has once again disappeared, and Barbara comes in saying she had to take an out-of-town trip, and hadn't time to let him know. We end the episode with Batman, Robin, and Alfred getting the Batcave fixed and saying that the Joker is now locked up and is serving time. But before the episode ends, they get a call from Commissioner Gordon at this jewelry store there's been these window shoppers. And these window shoppers happen to be Dr. Cassandra and her husband Kabbalah, looking at a diamond before turning invisible. And they'll be next week's villains. Nothing really changes here. It's interesting, we get one final appearance with Mayor Linseed, who appears in Gordon's office when the Joker's going around the flying saucer causing havoc. We get the final little scene with him. Alfred gets a bit more of a role in this story, which we haven't seen in quite a while, so it feels nice. Batgirl kind of just contributed nothing, only to getting captured again. Batman and Robin being incapacitated for quite a while was interesting, and once again, Gordon O'Hara once again contribute really nothing to the story. But of course, let's talk about the villain. Cesar Romeo as the Joker. This is his final time in the role, and it's really sad. We really know that the cancellation's really coming, with the Joker being the last villain. I will admit, him causing chaos with aliens seems up his alley, and creating a giant flying saucer to rule the world does seem something out there and crazy the Joker would do. The problem is, if you look at the plot, there's many plot holes you could point into how this would fail. Other than that, Cesar Romero absolutely nailed this version of the Joker. This version is more lighthearted and colourful than most usual interpretations. It can be dark at times, but compared to the more darker interpretations we've got in more modern mediums, he's really more lighthearted. He's another villain we've seen since season 1, and this is his last journey, and we come with this journey with him to be ended. It's sad, and overall, he's a villain just like King Tao. I've had problems with in his first appearance, mostly, but for him it was mostly in wardrobe rather than anything else. And it took me a while to get used to his version, but now that it's finally come to an end, I feel really sad that his version is coming to an end. But I can at least say Season 3 gave us some Joker episodes. Some I really liked. Also, I really like is his lead henchman, essentially a guy who dresses like an alien and thinks he's an alien. I really found him to be very colourful, very, unique. I really wish that we could have had like a big character actor play him, and he could be like a secondary villain, a guy who thinks he's an alien, and Joker manipulating him to go along with it. That should have been a good thing. And he's really fun. He absolutely is. Also, for next week's episode, we have Dr. Cassandra and her husband, Kabbalah. If Kabbalah should look familiar, I think he's played by Howard Duff, and I believe he appeared as a window cameo in Season 2. So it's interesting that he pips up here, and this pairing will be next week's villains. The Joker's flying saucer is, it's like Menu. It's either so bad it's good, or even lazy. It's a fun episode, but compared to the King Tut and Shane two-parter, it can feel like it's down a grade. But I don't mind this episode, and despite its flaws, which you can point out, I really believe that their lead henchman who dresses and honestly thinks he's an alien, and character to be fun, but also the fact this is Joker's last appearance, and despite what you say, whether it went out with a good one or a whimper, this is his final appearance, and this episode should be remembered for that. And there we have it. That was the Joker's Flying Saucer. Tune in next time when the dynamic trio will be going up against Dr. Cassandra and her husband Kabbalah in next week's episode. So until then, tune into the next Steven hour, the next Steven time. Ladies and gentlemen, so long for now.